Hey there, thanks for joining me on this episode number 61. Today I'm talking about how I literally pissed away $600 almost, and why this song from Eminem is so appropriate with what's going on right now. Massive learnings as always, keeping it fun, and that's what I'm sharing with you today on how to not be so attached to the failures. All right, let's go. Hey there, I'm Patty Dominguez. You're about to discover what it means to position your brand and your business to stand out. This show explores the stories of small business owners just like you who are bringing their message out to the world and impacting their tribe. So if you want to take your business to a category of one status, then hang with me, because this podcast shares everything you need to know about how to be more prolific with your brand so that you can have more profits. Hey there, thanks for joining me on today's episode. And I was prompted to set this up because this is all about imperfect action, right? Imperfect action, as I'm sure you've heard before, and people talking about how you have to take imperfect action. And while it makes a whole lot of sense in premise, the temptation, let's be honest, is to wait for everything to be just right and to be fully certain about the exact next steps before you take them. How many of you have gone through that experience? Because me, I used to be a professional at it. That's why I speak from a place of knowing. And I have to tell you, this concept of imperfect action is really the difference maker. I learned from my mentor about the fact that the people that have this amazing growth potential is because they take imperfect action, is because they are so removed from the outcome in thinking that they can control what things are supposed to look like, and instead just take action because they're moving forward. They're looking to move forward. And while for some of you, I know this used to be my case, I'm like, well, but what's the step that I have to take next when there's so many choices, right? What is the next step that I am to take? And the answer is, what micro step can you take first? The temptation to wait is costing you so much more. Instead, I go to the book, The One Thing, which in premise is something that I'm very, very passionate about in terms of being a practitioner of. I always say, just focus on the one thing. It's a great book, by the way, The One Thing. And what is the one thing that you can do today to move the ball forward, right? Going step by step, only looking at the step in front of you so that you don't go into the ever precarious fight, flight, or freeze. Reminds me of this time when I was in my swim class. This was early in high school, and I had to jump off the high board. And for whatever reason, I had this huge fear about it. Huge. I went into this panic mode where I knew I had to do that because in order to pass that particular class, I had to do that. And I felt that it was so daunting, and I had such a huge amount of fear, and that fear was only a representation of the outcome that I thought was going to happen, like I'm going to die or something on the high diving board. And my swim coach reminded me in that moment, and I so appreciate her now even more than I did in that moment, of course, is to just focus on what she called the next micro move. And she said, everything else will unfold. And I have heard that over and over again in the different things that I do. I remember in my yoga class, I was trying to do a headstand, and I was so resistant, thinking that I was so far away. And the instructor said, you're so close, just let go. And when I let go, it turned out that I was like less than a half an inch away. And I remember that being so meaningful, that we just make things so much harder on ourselves than they have to be. And all of these examples make so much more sense now as I look on those days of feeling the resistance of me thinking that I couldn't take the action because it just wasn't perfect. And here's the deal. Tell me that when you do take that action, it just feels good. It feels freaking good that afterwards you gain something out of it. It's a win. It's a win to take action. So I was just thinking about this because something happened today. Oh my gosh, such a nightmare. I'm so okay with falling down, but sometimes it leaves a mark type of thing. This whole episode was inspired by a recent snafu that I experienced, is like the face palm, I should know better type of thing. Okay, so I started running ads for my mind map. Shameless plug, pivotyourpositioning.com, pivot, yourpositioning.com to receive the mind map of the positioning essentials, right? So I'm promoting that. And of course, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to get this all ready. That mind map led to a whole automation sequence on the back end. And at the same time, I happened to mention to Christy on my team that I wanted to change our portal domain, right? Because it was prolific.cafe. And I don't know, long story short, I needed to change that. And so the domain got changed. Long story short, what happened is that all the links within the email sequence were broken because they were pointing to the old domain, right? Anyway, you're probably like, what does that mean? Net, it means I woke up this morning and I got a whole bunch of unsubscribes to my email sequence, a lot more so than has ever happened. I'm like, oh my gosh, what happened? Right? Like, what the heck? Massive fail, because then I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, I should know better. I didn't update the domains. My team didn't update the domains. I didn't tell them to update the domains. We didn't think about that. So right in that moment, I was like, oh my God, I spent over $600 and I got a whole bunch of unsubscribes. And then the worst part is all these other people are in the queue. And so they probably have these emails in their inbox and they're going to be like, what's going on here? This is all a farce kind of thing. All these emails are broken. Anyway, lost $600. Well, it was an expensive lesson. Let's be honest. But it's feedback, right? It's not failure. It's feedback. My team will tell you that I believe in this entire process where when something goes wrong, something goes off rails, where in the past, especially when they started, they would be like, I can't, this one time, someone on my team had said, I can't tell a lie. She's like, I feel so bad that this happened. And so there's a wrongness that we feel when something fails. And so I just said, okay, so what happened? And I said, so what did we learn from it? And what can we do moving forward so that doesn't happen again? It's a lesson. Sometimes it's an expensive lesson, like, oops, I won't forget the lesson. That was about a $580 lesson. But the point here is that I won't forget that lesson. So it can be considered a gift of sorts. If I want to rephrase it, I want to reframe it for myself and really thinking about how life is always working for us, even when we think it's not. And the important thing here is in that entire process, as we are looking at taking action, taking imperfect action, recognize that part of that process is going to include a whole lot of failures, quote unquote. But what if you recontextualized it, reframed it as just feedback on what didn't work? And just like I share with my team, figure out what happened, what did I learn from it, and what can I do moving forward so that doesn't happen again? Because here's the deal. The biggest gift that you can give yourself is to detach from this idea of what you think it was supposed to look like. Detach from it, meaning don't give it any more energy or any thought, because it just is part of the whole game. So as my friend Christine says, this whole life thing is just a game, right? So you just got to get up and get back in the game. And in that process of getting back in the game, of taking imperfect, see, just like I did there, imperfect action, I learn, I grow, and I feel a whole lot more at peace because I take that approach to the things that I do now, recognizing that along the way, the lessons are going to unfold. Some of them will be costly from a monetary standpoint. Others will just be a simple lesson. But the net of it is that it is all good. And when I look at it that way, and I recognize that this whole thing is just a game, it doesn't become so daunting. So that is my message for you, is give up on this notion of waiting for things to be perfect, getting ready to get ready, as I know I've been known to say, because that is wasting time, wasting energy, wasting the thoughts, the ideas, the inspirations that you have to roll out your business. And when you do that, you're just feeding the beast of procrastination that is so insidious. And just remember to really think about, what is it costing you to hold on to that belief? And the fact is, it's just not worth it. Now you know better, that just take imperfect action and just completely detach from it. So learn from me and my $580 lesson, and recognize that in those moments when you're scared, like palms sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy, kind of like Eminem says. That's from Lose Yourself. I'm totally aging myself. Yeah, just take imperfect action. It's okay. It's all good. All right. I hope you gained something from this, and let me know what you think about it. And I appreciate you as always. And again, if you're interested in that mind map, head on over to Pivot, Pivot, yourpositioning.com. It's a mind map and a little mini training there for you, which prompted this whole thing. And what a lesson it was. And such a gift, because now I can immortalize it here on this podcast episode. All right, good times. I'll see y'all next time. Thank you so much for checking out the Positioning to Profit podcast. If you haven't already done so, please make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new episodes. And also, it would mean the world to me if you would take a quick moment to leave a rating and review on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, or your favorite podcast player. It really helps to get the word out about the podcast and, of course, the featured guests. And lastly, please make sure to connect with me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. I'm on all of them. And use hashtag positioning to profit so that I can search you out and connect that way too. All right. Thanks so much. See you next time.